Welcome to All About Adoption. My name is Christine Altwies, and with me today is a very special guest, Essence. And today we're going to be talking about a teen's perspective on adoption. Welcome, Essence.
Thank you.
So you are back for a second time, because last time we had you on, I felt like there was so much more to talk about that I wanted to have you back and have a session, have an episode, give people a chance to hear your story and to hear a teen's perspective on adoption. So thanks for agreeing to come back.
Oh, thank you.
So just to sort of pick up where we left off, we talked last time about the fact that you are now 14 and you've recently been adopted.
Yep, a year ago.
A year ago. And we'll talk a little bit about your family at some point. But I think for the viewers, it's important to note that you were with your birth mother and your two baby sisters, or two younger sisters, until you were?
11.
Okay. So the first 11 years of your life, describe those briefly for us.
So they also weren't too good. I mean, I've had like a good time, and I went to like a normal school. I was in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, and we always like kind of moved around a lot. We just moved around like a lot all the time. My mom just liked to travel. So we always like moved maybe like every year. Sometimes we just moved around. And also my mom was, we were in a few shelters a couple of times because my mom was domestically, she was abused by her spouse.
Okay.
So that's also a few reasons why we moved around a lot.
So your first 11 years were not what we'd consider to be stable or traditional. You moved around, you changed school, you were living in shelters, but you were always with your birth mom and your two baby sisters.
Yes.
Okay. And then you arrived in Hawaii.
So we lived on Kona at first. Okay. We were there for like, a short amount of time. And then I think it was in Kona, that's when I got taken away from my mother. We were in another DV shelter, and they said that they just came and said she couldn't take care of us. So
you and your two sisters were in a domestic violence shelter with your mother, and a caseworker came to you at some point and said, we're going to remove you from your mother.
They didn't come to us. It was like pretty late at night. We were sleeping, and every night usually they had like a meeting for the people who lived in the DV shelter. But then she came back and she was like, okay, so there's a person here and they're saying they're going to take you with them for a little while. And then we were kind of like, what? We didn't really know what to do, so we weren't like sad. We didn't really know. The guy just kind of came, and then we got in the cop car and drove to a foster home.
And did you know at that point that you wouldn't be living with your mom again?
I didn't really know what they meant.
Okay.
Like, even when I got to the home, they were like talking about stuff, and I don't know, maybe it was like a joke, or I didn't really know what was happening. I couldn't really understand that much.
Okay, so you didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
So you didn't really experience big feelings because there was so much confusion that you didn't really have time to feel scared or confused or sad. Okay.
Like I remember the next morning I was kind of like, I think I said, where am I? And then she was like, kind of explained everything, and then I don't know, I just didn't really know what was going on, and I was really confused. But then eventually, I think I was kind of in denial too, because I'd been with her for such a long time, my mom, so I never really like left her. So I was like, I never even like slept over at anyone's house before because I've always been with my mom and my siblings.
Okay, so here you are, 11 years old. You've been taken to a emergency foster family with your two sisters, who are 4 and 8 years younger than you. Okay, and what was that like, and how long were you there? Try and help us understand what happened.
We weren't even there for like a month. I think we were there for like a week. And then she said that she couldn't keep us for like any longer because school was going to start, and she was only an emergency home, so she didn't take kids long. She only was like just immediately.
Okay. Okay.
So I think then when we left, it kind of settled in, and my siblings were on the car ride to the airport. We were not to the airport. We were going to their home. On the car ride there, we were just crying because we didn't really know. We knew what was going on, kind of. And we knew that our mom wasn't here with us at the time.
It started to sink in that you were going to be going to another foster home, and you didn't really understand, would this one be permanent? Mm-hmm. Okay. So then you're in your second foster home.
And I think at this foster home, we lived with the older man, and like they were probably like 50 years old, and they were still foster parents, and I remember they were just really old, and we didn't stay there long either. We stayed there for I think 2 months, and then after we left, and eventually I think school was gonna start up soon, so we had to like, you know, when we're moving, we don't know. They're trying to like find somewhere that will take us long enough for us to go to school and figure everything out. And we hadn't seen our mom over this.
So during this period, you haven't seen your mom at all? No. Okay. So now you're going to your third foster home. Yeah.
So in our third foster home, we were with a woman named Kelly, mm-hmm. and we stayed there for a pretty long time, and we eventually went to school, and we kind of like got back into a routine, but it was really like hard for us to like, we didn't really want to talk to anyone, and we didn't really like communicate well, or like, we didn't have that many pairs of clothes either. We didn't have that. We had like basically nothing. We didn't even have a toothbrush. We had like, yeah.
Help us understand what you think when you go to bed at night in this situation.
So, I don't know. I kept trying to like play what happened in my mind over again to figure out, like, I don't know, like, sometimes I think like, did I do something wrong, or I don't know. Now sometimes I would think that I was dreaming and that she would come back and get us, or I don't know, the social worker would say, okay, you can go back to your mom now, we had to check something, I don't know.
You kept thinking it was a bad dream and you would wake up.
Yeah.
Okay. So what could any adult have done or said at this point that might have helped you? Was there anyone who did something during this time of transition that you felt was helpful? Was there any caseworker or foster parent or driver who looked at you one day and just said something that made you feel safe and comfortable?
I don't know, I feel bad, but no, not really. There wasn't like any silver lining at the time. It was just like, we were just crying a lot, and no one really like explained to us what was going on. I mean, except for like that one foster parent.
Okay.
And we never got to see her mom at all, or like talk to her, and I don't ever remember talking to a social worker either between this time.
Okay. So now fourth foster placement. Do you remember all of these? Like,
yeah.
Is it pretty easy for you to say, okay, that was the third, now here comes the fourth, and the fourth was?
So the fourth was like it wasn't a group home, but she had like a lot of kids with her. I don't know, maybe like 7 other kids, but we didn't really interact with them that much, but there were a lot of other kids. And this is where it kind of got kind of hard. So like, Kalia was always like crying a lot, and she was kind of still like a baby. I think she was just turning 3 when we like got taken away. So she's still kind of a baby. She's still crying, and you know, she didn't know how to use the bathroom by herself. But I always had to take her to the bathroom. But they didn't. The foster parents didn't know that, and my other sister, she always peed the bed whenever she moved to a new place. So like, she's peeing the bed, and they're kind of getting mad at her pretty often. And I don't know, it was a pretty hard foster home because she had so many kids. She had to maintain other people besides us. Mm-hmm. I feel like we needed more attention than we were given at the time. And I remember there was this one time when I learned very soon that she had a temper, you know. So whenever Kalia was crying, she got really mad, and she was always like yelling at her to shut up and kind of things like that. And when my sister would pee the bed, she was always like, why are you doing that? And just get all mad at her and like put her in timeout when she peed the bed. She didn't understand that she couldn't control it, or I don't know. I don't think she's very understanding, but she was kind of an old lady. Like, she wasn't that old, but she was kind of an older lady. Mm-hmm. So there was like a few times when Kalia was crying late at night, and she thought that I was like yelling at her and hitting her when she was laying in the bed, but I wasn't. So like, she kept telling me that she was gonna like kick me out if I kept hitting my sister. But I was like saying, I'm not hitting her. She's like, you don't have to lie about it. Like, stop hitting her. Don't yell at her when she's crying. That's like my job. It's something like that. Like, I don't know.
So that was not a very easy placement, and you kind of, it sounds like you felt like this adult doesn't know the first thing about kids in crisis,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like to hear you tell it now, a child who is, how old was Kalia at that point?
3.
So your 3-year-old sister is getting moved from home to home and she's peeing the bed in response to the challenges she's feeling, and the person in charge of you doesn't even understand that that's probably an appropriate, normal response. Okay, so discouraging. And then, so that's home number 4. How many homes did you have before you?
7.
7. So you've got 3 more to go. And they were all sort of similar in terms of...
Yeah, so
okay.
I don't count the last one, but that would be 8, because when I got to number 8, that's when I got adopted. So
Okay.
7 was, the other 2, they were okay, but we never stayed there long. It was kind of, and I feel like there was like not, I don't know, they never said bye, like I love you. I know they don't, but like there was no like relationship between most of the homes. There was no like, I don't know.
You didn't feel cared for? You didn't feel loved? You didn't feel...
I felt like I was cared for, but I didn't feel like there was like a bond or anything, or like that it would be. I knew it wouldn't be permanent because we just kept moving, so I didn't expect it to be permanent.
So each time you arrived in a new home, did anyone tell you this is going to be for 2 months, or did they tell you we're going to try this out and see if it works?
They just kind of dropped us off and drove off. Like there wasn't like no one told us anything. We just had to guess on our own, pretty much.
Okay. How did you maintain hope throughout this, or what were you feeling? Were you hopeless? Did you ever feel like you could trust any of these people that you were with?
Not really. I feel like that made it a little bit hard too. I couldn't really trust any of them. I didn't really know what to expect either, because there was never like a guideline or like, okay, here are the rules, here what we do. It was just kind of like, all right, go to good night. Like, here's dinner, here's breakfast.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So at what point did you end up where you are now, and how did you end up where you are now? And let's talk a little bit about that. We've just got a few minutes left, and I want to talk about that, and then I want to talk about some of the other issues we talked about having to do with your culture. So
when we got to my 7th home, it wasn't really good. There was a lot of abuse in that home, and I had a really hard time with that. My sisters were abused also, and we kept kind of like telling our social worker that there was like abuse and there was stuff going on and we really need to leave that home. They kept saying that they couldn't find a home that would take us right now, so we just kept waiting. I think we were there for like a year before we ever got moved. And I think I remember I moved because my foster parent said she couldn't handle me and that she didn't like me and she needed me to leave, but she said she would keep the other 2. So then I moved on my own, and I went into a group home for like a certain amount of time. But then eventually they had been doing these interviews with other foster homes to see if they could take us. And that's when we got interviewed with Abby, and then we moved in with Abby. Okay. Before we talk about Abby and your new life, what was happening in your last home that resulted in your foster mom saying she couldn't handle you? What were some of the specific behaviors? Just tell us what you're comfortable telling us. You don't have to, if it's not okay, don't go into detail, but tell us what you can share with us about what were you doing. What kind of behaviors were you displaying, and what was causing you to do that? What were you feeling that caused you to behave the way you did? So at first about the abuse, I kind of just kept quiet because that's what we're supposed to. That's what she told us to do at least. And she kept telling us that nothing that happens in this house is anyone else's business. So I don't know. That made me kind of like not want to say anything, but I still felt like maybe it was the same thing as discipline, but. Of course, other people. When I told other people, they told me otherwise. Mm-hmm. And there was our neighbors. We lived next to our neighbors, and I told them about some of the stuff that was happening, and they knew there was something wrong. So like, one of the guys next door, he was talking like a few people spoke around, and they like talked to him. Someone ended up talking to my social worker, and then I guess they kind of backed me up on that because no one really believed me, and even my school counselor didn't really she couldn't do much. So then eventually that's when we got moved. And what did you do? What was the behavior that you did that caused your foster mom to say she didn't want you anymore? I don't really know. I don't know. When I would tell people about what happened, she would just kept telling them that I lie a lot, and I like to make up stories because I don't know. She just kept saying I like to make up stories, and I lied about a lot of stuff. So I guess after some people would talk to her about it, she just wanted me to get out.
Okay, so it's not like you killed the family pet or tried to burn down the house or stole money from your foster mom. It was not that sort of behavior. It was just that she was maybe threatened by you, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
No one ever I never really.
No one ever explained it to you. Okay. So you get moved to your final home and then to Abby. Tell us a little bit about Abby.
So, Abby is a white female, and her husband is Asian. So, I don't know. And both of her daughters have freckles and kind of brownish blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of funny, and I feel like it also makes it like great.
Great. Okay.
But like, it's also kind of hard to like be in public with, not hard to be in public, but like, we do sometimes get like a bit of stares and, you know, few. I mean, but it also makes stories to tell because, you know, like one time, Kalia, my little sister, who was 3, she was running around and she was like screaming. So then Adam was like, if you scream loud, people don't like when you scream loud. So if you scream loud, I'm going to put you in timeout. So we put her in timeout. And because we have such a big family now, we have to drive a 12-passenger van. So in timeout, he just sat her in the van with the door open, and he was just waiting, like, you know, I guess however long the timeout was how old you were. So she was in timeout, and someone called the police and said that he saw a little girl being shoved into a white van by an Asian man. So,
oh boy.
I mean,
so people look at you, your wonderful, colorful family, and they don't assume that you're an actual family?
yeah, they don't understand.
Okay. And just to be clear, Abby and Adam are your mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
and you're legally and formally adopted into this family now.
Yeah,
And you're happy about that?
I think I'm pretty happy about that.
You seem happy. I mean, it's a permanent situation, which is, it sounds like something you had wanted.
Yeah, I always wanted a permanent situation because, I don't know, I don't think I actually ever had a permanent situation because even my birth mom, we're always moving around and going different places and, you know.
Right. So we had talked before about how hard it is to grow up and not have childhood friends and not have, you know, the same kindergarten and grow up next door to the school or have things that you had as a child in your bedroom. And you had mentioned that was really hard and that made you very sad to have all that sort of broken history. And even though we have to wrap up in a few minutes, I just thought maybe you could talk a little bit about the things that you want people to know about someone like you and your teen perspective on this has been my life and these are the things that I'm grateful for and these are the things that I wish hadn't happened.
So I'm really thankful that I'm finally in a permanent position. I'm thankful that I did have a mom. You know, she would tried her best, I think. But I think it makes me really sad and it's kind of hard for me to deal with, like, because I've moved around so much, I've never, like, had a consistency in, like, schools. And, like, I also have, like, struggle in school because I haven't been in the same curriculum every time. And it's hard for me to make friends because I kept moving around so much. So whenever I got somewhere, I would be settled, but then I have to move again, so then it doesn't matter. Like, and because I moved around so much, and I'm in a whole different place all the time now. Well, now I'm in one place, but everyone that I know has been like friends with these people since like kindergarten and like 3rd grade, and they all have these like memories. But I don't have any of those things, like nowhere. So.
Right. Your history is kind of disjointed, and your past is sort of mumbled up. And okay. Before we wrap up, things that you're grateful for.
So I'm really grateful that I get to live with Abby, and I'm grateful that I got to have so many experiences because not many people get to say that they've been to so many places and done so many things and met so many people, because there are good things along the way. I'm thankful for that.
Things that you wish the adults in charge would remember?
I think some adults, when they look at a kid, it's hard for them to like talk to them because they just think they're just a kid. But I think the more you talk to them, the more they'll understand and the more they'll want to listen too, because they do want to hear the truth. You know?
Kids want to hear the truth.
I
So
would
better to
think.
tell you what's going on than to keep you in the dark.
Yeah.
That would have made things easier.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. Great. Well, I wish we had more time. Once again, we're almost out of time, but It's been really fascinating hearing your story, and I look forward to hearing more, maybe in a future episode. And I thank you very much, Essence.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been All About Adoption. My name is Christine Altweez, and we would like to thank Alelo Communications and our guest, Essence.